Zoe, what's happening, man?
What's up, man? Long time, super long time.
It's been an incredible amount of time.
Yeah.
We were chatting it up a little bit before, and you seem to believe that 2006 would have been our last time collaborating on something.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was my freelance release party at downtown Comerica Park, Fifth Avenue.
That's right. And you were moving, like shortly after that. Is that right?
I had just moved. I had moved at the top of the year. That was at the end of the year, and I come back home to get back with the fellas, and we all smashed out. That was a fun. That was fun. That was a fun night, man.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I remember I bought because it was you were trying to thin stuff out, and I bought a keyboard case from you. And I bought a keyboard case from. Okay. Yeah, I bought a keyboard case from you, and every time I go to a gig, because your name was on it.
Right.
Your name was on the case.
So that was the 7. Like, that was the 7. If it's a 7 board.
That's right.
Yes, that's right. Okay, got you. That's right. I remember exactly what case that is.
Yeah. And so eventually, that case passed away. As is what happens, and I replaced it with another case. But I had that case did me some good service.
Word. Yeah, that was a good hard case, and I put it through a lot. I put that thing. I was surprised, even looking back, like it was even sellable, because I put that thing through everything.
Yeah. All right. So, so how do we get introduced?
That
seems like we were playing with.
That was probably through Tate.
That's right.
Tate McBroom, Gorilla Funk Mob. Anytime we'd have big major gigs, or I remember us playing at the Blind Pig in Ann Arbor. We do stuff at Fifth Avenue. We would do. Were you on any of the Kalamazoo gigs and all that stuff? But
I'm sure we must have collaborated on some of that. And then at one point, I was living in Lansing. Did we ever do a gig at? What was the name? What's the name of that?
I can see the spot and I can't think of it. In Lansing, right?
Yeah, right. In Lansing.
I can see the place and I cannot think of the name of it, but I'm pretty sure we did some, because for a second we were there maybe monthly, I think.
Yeah, and wait a minute. So the guy that used to own that place, that was like the connection, and like Tate knew him. And so then we ended up with a gig there, and I can't remember the guy's name right now.
And this is,
but anyhow,
this is like 04. This is like 03, 04.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This is now. Goodness, it was really good times. It was formative years. There's a lot of great musicians that came through that band. I was more or less a hired gun, but I always enjoyed my time playing with you guys.
Yeah.
So let's talk about young Lorenzo Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about maybe your upbringing and some of the music and stuff that was going on around the house, and when music started to emerge as a pathway for you.
Well, music for me was always in the house. I got just a lot of good Black music in my house. Yeah. My mother was heavy on Motown and Isley Brothers and Earth, Wind and Fire and Stevie, and my father was more on the jazz and funk side. So I got Wes Montgomery and all these dope guitar players. B.B. King was another one. Jimmy was another one. and he loved James Brown. Of course, you know what older black man did not love James Brown. James Brown, Funkadelic, Parliament, um, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the dope thing about growing up in my house was, you know, as a kid, you know, they weren't telling me to stay out of the records. You know, I could go in the records and, you know, just pretty much have free reign, you know, as long as I wasn't trying to imitate, you know, Grandmaster DST on Rocket and scratching the records and all that kind of stuff. They were cool with it. And as long as I stayed out there, Richard Pryor and Red Fox records, they was fine. But you know, still to this day, like I have that record collection now. Like that vinyl is in my possession. And, you know, even looking back on some of those, you know, you see my little crayon markings and, you know, my drawings and stuff on the actual cover art and all that. But yeah, like that's pretty much where I cut my teeth with music, was just being around them and, you know, riding in the car with mom, and she was playing the Spinners' greatest hits. And, you know, she was a huge Commodores fan. And, you know, when she wasn't popping in the 8-track or cassette tape, it was, what was the station? I think it was 1310. It was an AM station, but it played all oldies. So all the stuff that she grew up on, I listened to constantly in the car. So, you know, a lot of stuff, you know, even coming up as a teenager and becoming a hip hop fanatic and, you know, hearing stuff that was sampled, I was like, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's, you know, Tighten Up. Or that's that James Brown loop that I heard my father playing, or, you know, whatever. So a lot of that stuff was already connecting to me, just, you know, on a nostalgic side, even when I was like 13, 14, 15 years old. So that was kind of my like upbringing, but still, like, even on without just music to the side, you know, I grew up playing baseball. I started playing ball at 9, and you know, that took the front seat while music kind of took the back seat. Because they started me on piano lessons, maybe like 5 or 6, I guess. And you know, it was cool, but like, you know, you're 5 and 6, you got all this energy and you want to run around outside and play with your friends. And, you know, you don't, as you well know, it's like, you know, you don't want to just sit there and practice scales and arpeggios and, you know, these boring songs that you've never heard before. And, you know, that didn't really capture my interest. And so for a second, like, I stopped, maybe at about age 10, 9 or 10. So when baseball came in, piano kind of stopped. And the thing that brought me back to it was learning how to play by ear. And once I learned how to play by ear, I started learning songs that were on the radio. I started learning songs that were, you know, popular right then and there. And, you know, once you're able to do that and play that for your friends and impress your friends, it's like, oh, you know, you kind of see the reaction that you playing or creating this music has on other people. And that becomes kind of addictive, you know what I mean? So that was really my like introduction into it. And then, you know, going into college, I played ball still, was drafted out of high school to the Toronto Blue Jays in 96, and ended up going to Western Kentucky University on a full baseball scholarship. So it's funny now as an independent musician who, you know, this is all that I do. You know, coming out of college and you're debt free, and then, you know, you become this musician and you have all the debt. So it's really funny how that works out. It's a cold world sometimes, but you know, but still, again, like going into college, it was still all baseball. Because I, you know, at you know, 18, 19, 20 years old, I really saw myself playing in the league. You know, I wanted to get drafted again, and you know, try it out in the pros and you know, see where it went.
In what positions did you play?
In high school, I played first base and I pitched. But I was always like the fastest on the team. And so in high school, they started putting me in center field to go, you know, go get balls. And it was like, you know, if you're at first base, you're not going to get drafted. You play center field, they're going to look at you. And that's exactly what happened. So I played center field pretty much from like my junior year or my senior year to until the end, until I stopped playing after I graduated at Western.
Now, do you bat right-handed or left-handed?
Thank you so much for watching my video so far. If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
You bat right-handed or left-handed?
I'm very interesting with that. I bat and throw right-handed, but everything else I do is left-handed. I write left-handed, hold the phone left-handed, eat left-handed.
Mm.
So it's really strange. It's balance, I guess.
Yeah, that is interesting. Because my son is 7, and he's left-handed, and we just started him with some baseball stuff, so he's getting some coaching and stuff, and I'm going to get him playing for his school team. So that's what it's looking like. We're going to do that this summer, and now he throws left and he hits left, which that's like one of those because most pitching is right-handed, and a left-handed hitter has an advantage against a right-handed pitcher. But my dad is left-handed, but I'm right-handed, and it's interesting because my dad taught me a lot of stuff. Of course, he's my dad, so he taught me tying my shoes, tie, putting my belt on, all that stuff, and all that stuff is left-handed. Like, so I do that stuff left-handed. I lead with the left on all of that. And then my son, who actually is left-handed, so now that I'm teaching him stuff, I'm teaching him left-handed.
So it makes perfect sense to him.
So it makes perfect sense to him because I was taught left-handed, which is
very,
very interesting.
Do you play bass right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Okay. I was trying to remember. I remember you telling me something about that story that you just told.
Yeah. So okay. So this is an interesting topic because you don't play piano differently if you're left-handed or right-handed.
Right.
That doesn't make any difference, right? It's all here. You don't play saxophone differently, left-handed or right-handed. Of course, you have drummers that will, if they're left-handed, they'll play left-handed kit, and then you have like guitar players, bass players that will play left-handed like that. Now, my dad actually does play guitar, but he plays right-handed, and that sort of got me thinking, just about that whole thing. So my son, I gave him he's got a guitar, and it's a right-handed guitar, and I taught him to play right-handed.
Okay.
Right. It's an advantage to play right-handed because there's a lot more inexpensive equipment. There's a lot more stuff for a right-handed person.
Yes.
And since there's no real advantage to doing something that both hands do something completely different, right? One hand is doing the fretting and the other one is doing the picking. Mm. And I suppose you could argue that, well, if you want to have faster picking, then maybe if you're left-handed, then you want your left hand doing the picking. But then you could argue, but most of what's happening is all the fretting, right? And all that sort of contorting and stuff that you have to do with the other hand. So maybe that should be the hand that is the, so it's like
which one is really dominant?
Right. So it's almost like you get to a certain point where it's like, I guess if something was strange about the way that he was, when I kept handing him the instrument, but he didn't know anything different. So he just whatever it is I showed him, that's what he was going to do, But I noticed that he was left-handed. He wasn't more than 3 months old. Might have been earlier than that. And they say that you're not really going to know, until the kid is older than that. But I knew right away. I knew he was left-handed because it was just certain things that he was doing. And this sounds silly, but stuff like, I'd be giving him a bath, and the way that he would splash the water, and which hand that he was more dominant with as far as splashing the water.
That's not weird because that's exactly what I was thinking. Because I was thinking of my daughter, like, okay, what would tip me off to her being right or left-handed? And it would probably be whatever hand that she's slapping stuff with, or what I mean, like that's would more than likely be their dominant side.
Right. And that wasn't the only thing, but that started. I was like, wait a minute, I wonder what's going on here. I wonder if he's left-handed, and then obviously, he's left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to my dad about this too. Like, so my dad is interesting because he's left-handed, but he's right eye dominant, which is not what usually is the case. Most people that are right-handed are right eye dominant, and most people that are left-handed are left eye dominant. And so in my dad's case, my dad actually learned how to do some stuff right-handed because it was actually more convenient because he's right eye dominant.
Right.
But most of the precision kind of stuff that he does left-handed. Like he learned how to shoot right-handed and left-handed, like shoot a gun or shoot a bow, right-handed and left-handed, right? Now, my son is left-handed and is left eye dominant, which is the usual thing, and actually it eliminates some of the issues with like sort of knowing what it is that you're looking at, and having precision and accuracy. If you don't know that you're right eye dominant but left-handed, if you don't know that, then that can also, it can sort of throw things off and make it harder to be.
Now you got me thinking, like, okay, which hand do I shoot with? What hand do, like, even what hand do I like shoot pool with? Like, it's the same, but I'm left hand, I'm left eye dominant, absolutely, 100%. So that helped with me batting right-handed. Whereas, if I'm hitting this way and I'm, my lead eye is my left eye. But now I will say this: I can throw left-handed, just not as not as well as I throw right. But I can throw left-handed.
Yeah, that's very it's an interesting topic. Small percentage, the minority of folks are left-handed, and then what they say is if you're left-handed, so then what it means is that your right side of your brain is more developed as far as coordination, and control, like fine motor control. And then likewise, if you're right-handed, your left side of your brain. But then we also know that like the creative center versus more of the rational center are different parts of the brain, different sides of the brain. So what that might mean. So yeah, it's a really fascinating topic.
Yeah.
Now you said something about being a broke musician. And I want to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, heavily indebted.
So one thing. It seems and last night I interviewed the great saxophonist Andrew Spate, and we talked about this a little bit, but I called people with irregular careers, I call them normies, and normies seem to not fully understand all that a musician has to deal with, the kind of grueling 24/7 kind of job
yes
that being a professional musician is.
Yep.
And it seems that there's this idea that it's all fun and games.
Oh yes.
That and I use this illustration too, but
because that's all they see. That's all they see from the outside looking in. That's all they see.
They don't see any of the practicing. They don't see any of the none of the sort of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah,
they don't see any of that.
As a musician or as an independent artist, you are you are a small business owner, like off the break, off the break. You know, you file your taxes even as such. So, you know, with that, you're automatically 24/7. You're automatically trying to compound different ideas to get yourself heard, get yourself seen, have your music be recognized, you know, by, you know, this person and that person. So, you know, even for example, and I had this conversation just yesterday, even for example, let's say somebody hires you for a gig and they're like, you know, the gig is from 4 to 6. And it's like, cool, you know, it's like, man, 2-hour gig, that's nothing. But it's really like, okay, depending on where it is, you know, you got to start getting ready, you know what I mean, at noon or 1 o'clock. You know, you're there for sound check early. You're there an hour early for sound check, let's say, just roundabout. And, you know, you start the gig. The gig is from 4 to 6. And then it's, you know, from 6 to about 7, you're wrapping your stuff up. You're putting it away. You're packing up the car. Your car might have a ticket on it because, you know, you tried to get you a nice spot so you don't have to haul all your stuff in. And, you know, then from there, you know, you drive home. By the time you get home, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock. And it's like from there, you got to try to wind down. You know, some who have a job, it's like you got to wind down for the night after a gig, after a show. Like that's almost impossible. It's so funny. And I didn't even realize, I mean, I knew it, but I didn't realize it until I had like a Fitbit on playing a show. And you look at your heart rate and your calories burned and all that stuff. And I'm like, damn, I burned all that. And I was sitting down, you know? Yeah. So it's like, yo, it's such an adrenaline rush, you know, pouring out your passion for other people and watching their reactions and making them feel great. And, you know, afterwards they're coming up to you and, you know, showing their appreciation and having to wind down from that. You come back to, you know, your house or go back to a hotel room and it's just you and space and you have to wind down. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole thing.
Yeah. The winding down thing is challenging. It's quite challenging for me.
Yes.
And if you're not careful, it can turn into an issue with sleeping.
Absolutely.
You know, and I've gone through some stretches where sleeping was not. It wasn't a definite thing.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, trying to calm down, trying to wind down, and that taking a certain amount of time, and let alone, because you know one of the musician things is, you know, multiple streams of income, right?
Right.
I mean, you're trying to get multiple streams. Okay, so maybe you're doing some sideman gigs, you're doing your sort of your main project stuff, you're doing, you know, probably teaching some lessons, you know, and you're, you know, maybe you're playing at a church, you know, you're doing all of these different kinds of things because you got to do it. I mean, that's only if you want to be able to pay bills. If you don't care about that, then don't worry about it. And so frequently I'd be back really late on a Saturday. So say I get back at midnight and say the gig really got over at like midnight. I'm sorry. So I get home at 2. Say the gig really got over at midnight, but it takes me a half hour to an hour to pack up. And then I got an hour and a half drive or whatever it is to get home. Then you get home and you're all wired, not just from the gig, but you're wired because you're trying to make sure you don't fall asleep when you're driving. Yeah. And that's a whole thing. And I got several strategies to deal with that. Crunching ice is very effective for me. Cold and sweet in particular, but crunching ice. Like stop at a gas station, just get a whole thing full of ice, maybe put water in it, and just crunch the ice. And for some reason, something about the cold, it
works.
It works.
See, I got too many feelings for that.
Or I mean, and even the stuff like rolling the windows down,
Yeah.
sticking your head out the.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You got it, man. Look, and I don't keep the car at under a certain temperature or over a certain temperature because I don't want it to get too hot, and that
Right.
it start getting smothering and you start getting a little lazy, and yeah, man.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, turning the radio on to like some top 40 or stuff, turning the radio way up so you can sing along with the
Yep.
music and stuff. All kinds of strategies that cats use to try to keep themselves awake because you're already totally spent after the gig. And then they have to stay up, okay, and then you get home and then
you still up.
You still up, and then you're wired because now whatever you were doing in the car to stay up, that's keeping you up. So then trying to, wind down from that and trying to actually get a couple hours of sleep because you got to be up at like 6:30 or something, 6 o'clock to get to church, for the church gig. Now, fortunately, most of the time, the church gig, you don't have to haul a bunch of equipment there. So the stuff is already there. So maybe you don't have to be there quite as early. Mm-hmm. But it's just, man.
It's an ongoing thing. And for gigs during the week, if you take your kid to school, you know what I mean? Like you gotta, or when they were, infants and they were staying up, like my daughter had colic, man. So it's like, she was up and screaming and, just up. And sometimes her mom would send her downstairs with me and, we just be up, it'd be 3 o'clock and we just hanging. And then, the next day we got to go to daycare. So it's so many different things that, again, people just don't see. They see you on stage, you having fun with your band. That's all they see is fun. And that's it. Once the curtains close, it's a whole nother few layers to that.
There's that whole thing, when a 9 to 5 person, I'm calling them normies still. When the 9 to 5 person is on, you're on.
Yeah.
When they're off, you're on.
Yes.
When they are Valentine's Day, you're on. I mean, you're the music for the Valentine's Day.
Exactly. Yes.
When they're going to some business reception, mingling, you're on.
Mm-hmm.
When they get married, you're on.
Yep.
When they go on vacation, you're on. Christmas, New Year's, you're on.
Yeah.
You're just on.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and these are top spots. Like New Year's, like everybody's looking for that.
That's right.
Everybody's looking for that. Right. So that's 100% true. 100%. 100% true.
Yeah, and so I think a couple things happen. Is one, I think most people don't really understand, the life of a musician, what it really takes. Mm-hmm. And then two, people that want to pursue music, they don't have any idea of what kind of rigor, what you're actually putting yourself into, like what this life actually is going to be.
Yeah.
And so if you don't really love it, like if you didn't do it, you would die. Like if you didn't do it, like you would be miserable. Like, I mean, if you can think of something else, do that. Like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And, but there's a lot of glamorizing of, being an artist and all of this. And that's great. I mean, of course I love the arts. I'm stuck with it. I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I don't even remember choosing it. It's just kind of like, hey, this is what you're doing.
How about that?
But for those that have a choice, you might want to consider, like, really think critically about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to talk anybody out. If you need it, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. But if you don't need it,
no, that's super real. And I'll tell you one thing. Also is that what's happening with the pandemic and how everything is just dried up and slowed down. Well, I guess it's starting to come back now some. But this time last year, there was nothing. And the one positive thing that I can say from that is the pandemic really caused me to put everything on pause, and just, it allowed me to take that energy and put it into, detailing stuff, just around here, and, getting stuff in order, including my health. Like I, got a lot of things with my health in order, dropped almost 40 pounds. And, I was like, yo, man, like I can really, if I'm gonna be here, let me make sure that I'm good. Like, let me take care of let me detail some stuff that I normally wouldn't be detailing if I was just, hopping a plane every other week. So, that forced sit down, which, I've been on the road with, either with my own stuff or with the foreign exchange since 2008. And, there was no stopping. If it wasn't no pandemic, it wouldn't have been no stopping. I still would have been going, still would have been, super overweight with high blood pressure and all this other stuff. And, now I'm, chilling and got some stuff in order. And, I feel very focused and a lot more happier, and, just in life. And, we chatted before the cameras went on, just, just about just life stuff, and, just being able to kind of slow it down and, really, really hone in on things that are important when those curtains close, was a positive on this side of things, with that work stoppage, basically.
Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of different kinds of folks, politicians and philanthropists and YouTubers and musicians, a lot of musicians, mostly musicians, because I'm most heavily networked, obviously as a musician, but academics and motivational speakers, athletes. And one thing that the musicians have said, is more or less exactly what you just got done saying. The pandemic has been an opportunity to slow down, spend more time with family,
Yep.
maybe get the health together, spend some more time developing stuff around the house, actually be able to sit in your house.
Yes. Yes. Man.
And so that's, I guess if there is a silver lining, I guess maybe that's the silver lining, is that because stuff slowed down, maybe it's given folks an opportunity to focus in on some things that are more important. And even if it's like a project thing, like,
Right.
I think of like this interview series, I wouldn't have been able to do this.
Exactly.
There's no way.
Exactly.
This is episode 152.
Damn. And that's dope though. Like seeing how us as artists have even, broken the mold on other things creative. You know what I mean? And seeing folks kind of step out of the box a little bit, and artists opening doors for other artists in that sense. Because it's like, we're all in the same boat. Let's kind of reach out to each other. That was another dope thing too, is just checking up on folks. Like,
yeah,
that was kind of cool. It wasn't a thing of, folks checking up on you because they want something. It's just like people are genuinely concerned of, how are you doing, and that's cool to me. I think that there needs to be, I hope that continues to happen post pandemic.
So when I started this series, I started it March. Let's see here. I guess 2020. Yeah. So it was March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
My first interview was like the 30th of March. And when I first started doing these, I had wanted to do a podcast for, some years, but I couldn't do it. I was too busy. It was too busy doing stuff. And then also the kind of folks that I wanted to talk to, I was like, well, how am I going to be able to coordinate my schedule, which is ridiculous, with these cats' schedule, and their stuff is ridiculous. It's just not going to line up. But then when everything got shut down about
the crib,
then I was like, everybody is now available. I was like, let's go.
And we all try to talk and vent.
Yeah, so I was like, okay. And a lot of it was because I wanted to reconnect with folks that I hadn't talked to in a long time, that I hadn't collaborated with for a long time. And one thing about music, the power of music, and this is something I've said frequently in this series, but I can't think of another career, another activity, a hobby or anything. I can't think of anything where I would have made so many instantaneous friends.
Right.
Like, you play one tune 20 years ago and it's locked in there. And when you see the person again, it's a continuation. Those gigs that we did together and then reconnecting now, it's like there's like this kindred spirit. It's just there because it's like we know something essential about each other.
Right. That's very true. That's very true. And the only thing that compares to that is sports. But even with sports, like, your skills erode. Whereas with music, it either is right there, or you're improving, or you're pushing each other. And, it gets even better as you get older because you make better choices. You're more seasoned. So that's where music would have the advantage with sports. Sports still has a camaraderie, but music still has it to where, 20 years later, in our 40s, we can still get on stage and we can still burn it down.
That's right.
Whereas I can't dunk anymore. my knees will kill me.
Yeah, I'm too heavy to dunk, man.
Right. I'm not even about to say no good.
See, so the issue is I can still get up, but know what happens when you go up,
man.
You gotta go down,
and you have to come down on two knees, and one will give out.
Oh, that's great. All right, so yeah, music, the power of music.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, being able to be on stage, with your friends, and those sort of comments and jokes and stuff that are happening that the audience doesn't know about, or even just certain looks, all of that stuff, man. I miss that. That is the stuff, man. That's that inside baseball,
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's
yeah.
Stevie said it. He said, music is a world within itself with a language we all understand. And that's that world. Like, that look is part of that world, part of that inside, scoop that everybody on stage knows. And, nobody in the audience will catch it unless they might know you or something like that. And they're kind of looking at you to do something. But, it's just a whole other thing going on it's a show within the show, pretty much. And that'll never go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So in all the touring and all the bands you've played in, I'm sure you have some moments that really stick out to you.
Oh man.
You probably have a lot of moments.
Yes.
maybe you can maybe talk about a few of them.
I think the one that kind of sticks out to me is being on tour with the Foreign Exchange. We went to South Africa in 2014, and this was my first time. Well, the only time. I haven't been back yet. But we hit Johannesburg and we hit Cape Town. We did Johannesburg first, and they went nutty. Like, it was the closest I've ever been to being a rock star ever in life. We get there. Normally our shows are like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 sometimes. We went to Johannesburg, and it was already packed out. I think they ended up like putting like 200 more people than capacity, just because this was our first time there. They had been asking us for years, and we pretty much played damn near everything we knew as a group. And I think the show was like 3.5 hours long. And the highlight for me was, we ended up playing, I guess We're on the Move is probably my most popular song. So we play We're on the Move. Me and Fonte get out. We do our me, Fonte, and Darian Alexander get out, and we kind of do our like dance routine to it, and they going up. And, I'm just sitting there, like, I get back on the keys and I'm having an out of body experience, because I'm like, yo, this is a song that I did, at my house. And here we are in Joburg, South Africa. And it's, I don't know, 1,500 people or something like that. And they're singing the words to it. And like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. They're singing the words back, and I'm just sitting there like, this is crazy. So when we talk about power of music and the universal language and, that type of thing, where it's just like, you go to these different countries, and sometimes it's countries that don't even speak English, and, they're just falling out. Like after the Joburg show, I was having people come up to me and crying. I'm just like, what? Like, yo, like I ain't nobody, man. And like, it happened multiple times. And I'm just like, yo, this is nuts. But it let me see, firsthand, what you're a part of, or what your music does to other people, on a 16-hour flight away from where you live. And that to me was incredible. Like, that was a huge eye opener to me. Like, I had been overseas to Europe and to UK, Paris, Amsterdam, and I've seen their reaction, and their reaction is crazy. But when we were in Joburg and it was our people, and like they were going up the entire time. And it just let me know that, you're a part of something that's bigger than you. And, it really made me appreciate what comes out of this studio even more so. And, just never to take advantage of it. I guess I could say, like, don't take advantage of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or take for granted, I should say.
Take it for granted. Yeah.
Don't take,
yeah. These days we've gone through all of these sort of, I mean, it's been a lot of stuff that's happened over the last several months. And it seemed like just when we thought that it was going to slow down and things were calming down, then the next big thing would happen. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if we made first contact, with an alien species, like I would not be surprised, because it's just been so crazy. And I have to say that the thing that has kept me balanced, and I can't say I'm surprised by this, because it's been the thing that has been with me my whole life. People change, situations don't go the way that you want them to go. People tell you one thing and do something else. You know, they say they're never going to do this and they find themselves doing that and it jacks you up. Um, you know, politicians are going to make their promises and not do what they say.
Yep.
Um, you know, people are going to let you down. Circumstances are going to let you down. But you know, the one thing that never let me down, music never let me down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Music never let me down. And even in the middle of the worst stuff that I've experienced, I went through a really, really bad. I kind of, I sort of minimized, you know, I kind of belittled the sort of gravity of this sleeping issue I told you that I was having. I had this. This was horrible. This thing it lasted for about a year, about a year, just about a year, where you know how sometimes people will tell you, you know what, man, I'm just not sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
But really what they mean is that they're not getting more than 4 hours of sleep. Okay. All right. So now when I say I wasn't sleeping
You
for a
weren't
period of
sleeping,
like,
period.
I was not sleeping. I was not sleeping. It was the roughest stuff ever. And it was accompanied by, and so it was these two things that were happening at the same time. I was having these aggressive panic attacks, and I was totally freaked out by that because I had no idea. I'd never experienced anything like that, so it was freaking me out. So I was having these aggressive panic attacks, and then, um, I couldn't sleep. And every time I would try to go to sleep, I'd start having the panic attacks. And so it got to the point where I started associating sleeping with having panic attacks. Right. And then it would get to the point where, cause you know, working out has been like a real stress reliever for me and been necessary and important, not just to be healthy, but to, you know, to try to keep my mind healthy, just
Right.
dealing with stress, you know? And, I started having panic attacks. I would be at the gym and I'm working out, and then I started to not be. I was having a hard time telling the difference between, you know, my heart beating like because I've been working out, and my heart beating because I'm going to have a panic attack.
Damn.
So it was messed up. It was some messed up stuff, man. And I finally, you know, I got it sorted out.
Yeah.
It was on the heels of something that should have been a real stress reliever, but what happened was like the whole fight or flight thing had been turned up so high for so long, and I had only been getting maybe 4 hours of sleep for a long period of time, and so it just went all the way. But even when I was going through that, music
Was the constant.
you know music was the thing, because you can try to explain that to someone that's not experienced that, and sometimes it helps to talk about it, but they can't really understand. They really don't understand what that is. And so, but the music seems to understand, you know.
Right.
And
Right. Because even at the top of the pandemic, like when I was just like, okay, so just show money's about to just be gone, and I don't know for how long. Okay. So at this point, I'm just like, okay, well, while I'm sitting here moping around, I'm playing on my acoustic guitar and getting better at the acoustic guitar. And I'm like, man, that's this. I mean, you know, if I get better at the acoustic guitar as a result of the pandemic, I'm not mad at all, because that's going to go right into some recordings, and you know, we gonna get real nice on this guitar, and it's, you know, it's going to be some other stuff. So even just like that, you know, just little stuff, you know, now you have all day. It's like,
so I had told you before we started rolling, that, you know, I'm in my second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So my first marriage, you know, that ended, and it was a surprise to me because uh, I didn't get any sort of warning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like Wednesday. All right, I took a job.
Uh,
I took a job in, you know, such and such a other state, you know, 8 hours away, and I applied for it. They offered to me. I'm going to take the job. Uh,
oh wow.
and then she was gone on that following Sunday. All right. So that was now, you know, we was having problems.
Was this before or after the sleep?
No. This is a long time ago.
Okay.
So this was like oh 05.
Oh, okay.
This is a long time ago.
Got you. Okay.
So you know, so that happened, and Victor Wooten, who I had been playing with, he came to Ohio State, where I teach at, and to do a master class for Paul Robinson, who's the double bass professor there.
Okay.
To do a master class for his students. It was just a private thing, just for his students. And, you know, of course, I'd been playing with Vic. I knew he was coming. So I came in to support. And I watched the master class. And of course I'd seen a bunch of stuff. But, you know, he just has this way. Right after that master class, I left and went to a music store and bought a bass.
That's when you started?
That's when I started.
Wow. I knew it was not too long after or right, because I think the last time we got up, we were talking about bass playing. And I think you had just, so yeah, that makes sense. Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know that's what sparked it.
Yeah, that's what sparked it. So I, you know, the basses that are hanging on the wall behind me, you know, we were talking about sort of using music as a way to sort of get through stuff, to sort of, and you know, you can like when you going through something, you can do the negative thing, you know, the destructive thing. You know, let me pick up another vice. Let me, let me do X, Y, and Z. Let me, you know, run around with such and such or whatever. You can do that, or you can do something constructive, and that's what I needed. Man, I was practicing, 5-6 hours a day just on bass because she was gone. And I was like, hey, well, I got the time.
Yeah, you had the whole day.
I had the whole day. You know.
Now this is literally our safety net.
Yes.
It's absolutely our safety net. When all else fails, we fall back, we fall down. Music is what catches us.
That's right. And you know, some folks don't understand that, and they can be jealous of that.
Yes.
You know, it's and it's not personal. It's not, you know, I'm not trying to take anything away from you, but look, this is what I do. This is a lot of this is tied up in what my identity is as a person.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely,
and I need it. As circling back to what we were saying before, I'm not doing this because I want to do it. Although I do want to do it.
Right.
I'm doing this because I need to do it.
Absolutely. And which when I get asked the question, I get asked this every now and then, just in interviews or in conversations where folks just be like, you know, hypothetically, like, if it wasn't for music, what would you be doing? And I'm sitting there like, right. Publishing, I don't know, which is still part of music. So yeah, like, yo, I've never thought of it, because music has always been there. Even when I was playing baseball, music was there. I, you know, still played. it's always been there. And, you know, since I was 5 and I'm 42 now. So, you know, it's always been there. 37 years. It's always been there in some form or fashion.
That's what's up, man. That's
Yeah.
what's up. So why don't you talk to us about your projects, any projects that you're working on right now? Maybe some collaborative stuff, maybe a album release or something.
Well, I just released an album last month, April 2nd, with another Detroit brother, super talented producer, tall black guy. He and I produced an album called Abstractions, and Abstractions is 9 tracks long, just very dense, thick material. You know, it's almost a love letter to Detroit. And, you know, it has, you know, a lot of family folks, a lot of folks I've frequently collaborated with. Of course, my brother Fonte, and of the Foreign Exchange and little brother, Cy Smith, who I work with all the time. Also some Detroit folks, Piranha Head and Divinity. I've got Black Milk on there. Elzai is on there. House legend Josh Milan is on there. One of UK's finest, Omar, is on there. And, you know, we just, me and Tall Black Guy, it's funny because Fonte and I have been working together and producing together probably since I moved out here, since about 2006. And, you know, it's very rare that you get people that you are literally, that's like my musical soulmate, almost to say. You know, when we work together, a lot of our stuff doesn't even need to be communicated. You know, I know what he's going to want. He knows what I want, all that type of stuff. Like, you know, it's very, very nonverbal. And with that relationship, you know, he and I are basically, I mean, that's family now. So, you know, and with something like that, and with music, and you understand how music works and collaborating works, and, you know, it's very, very difficult to have someone who matches your work ethic, matches your abilities, matches your, you know what I mean? Like, it's very, very rare. And so I felt like I caught lightning in a bottle with that situation. Like, you know, I got Fonte, boom. Same with Cy Smith. Like, she and I work really, really well. We always call each other our musical siblings. You know, I know the ins and outs of her, vice versa. And, you know, I can send her music and not have to worry about it. She sends me back vocals. I don't have to do anything but put them in the session. That's it. That's all. And the song is done. But, like, you know, with the Fonte situation, I'm like, man, I'm never going to get that again. Enter Tall Black Guy. You know, I was going through some stuff in 19. You know, was kind of hitting a plateau musically, creatively. How I usually work is I usually come up with the music part. I will send it to Fonte because I trust his ear. And, you know, even if he's not involved in the project or involved in whatever, I send it to him, just be like, yo, let me know what you think. Let me know what you hear, blah, blah, blah. You know, if you want to hop on it, cool. If you want to write to it, cool. And, you know, that's how he and I work. So, you know, at the time I was sending him stuff and it wasn't really moving him. And, you know, he would let me know and I'd be like, cool, you know, go back in, send him something else. You know, I don't know. And he was like, one day he was like, man, why don't you try collaborating? And, you know, as a producer, I just didn't do that. You know, I always prided myself off of, you know, you got to play all the instruments. You got to, you know, you've got to do everything. You got to produce it. You got to arrange it. You know, you see Prince's credits and, you know, your eyes light up. It's like, yo, I want that to be me. Produce, arrange, compose by Zoe. And, you know, after a while, it's like, I don't need to do that anymore. You know, let's bring some killers in here. And so, you know, I got on the phone with Tall Black at the time. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland. At the time, he was in Hyattsville, Maryland, which is probably about 20 minutes from me. And just called him up. And, you know, he and I were fans of each other already. A lot of mutual respect between the two of us. He is a monster producer, hell of an ear. And you know, he just knows where stuff goes, and it's incredible to hear, particularly since, you know, he plays keys, but he would tell you himself, you know, I'm not a keyboardist, but you know, you wouldn't be able to tell. And so I, you know, called him up one day, was like, yo, what you think about getting in the studio, man? He was like, cool. I think the next day he was over here, and we've been working ever since. That was 2 years ago. And you know, here we've got an album, and he's now in Cleveland, getting ready to move back home to Detroit. And you know, I was just in Cleveland 2 weeks ago, working with him and another cat out of Pittsburgh named Bus Crates. And you know, we just went in for like 2 nights in a row and got out about 10 ideas. And you know, that's what I like now. You know, I feel like now, I feel like I've kind of 180'd from, you know, having to do everything to now I feel like music shouldn't be made by yourself. You know, it's an interesting transition to make, but I feel like, you know, if you keep the music and the product first, it really doesn't matter who's playing on what, as long as that mug is dope. And, you know, that's kind of priority number one for me. I mean, it's always been priority number one for me, but it's just a different approach, I think, now.
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting thing. I think I've come to the same conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And plus it's fun. It's more fun because it's like you get to share because you're sharing the experience. Like when you're doing everything yourself, it's like, you know, you still get that sort of feeling like, you know, when something is getting there, but to be able to like talk to somebody about it and hey man, we go to the bridge right there.
Yeah.
The second time and the bass drops out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what's happening. You know, just all that kind of stuff. It's just
that reaction too. Is like, you know, I got to take it back to what brought me into making music in the first place, is people's reaction. And you're in there,
right?
And you see, you know, I'm playing something, and you know, Tall Black's over the side, like, woo, like, what is that? And you know, it's just like, even that, it's like, you know, you're wanting to bring your A game for each other, and you just push each other until you just get this product that's just crazy.
Yeah, and it obviously it helps you to see in your blind spot. You know, you bring somebody
Very
in,
much so.
Right? They see where you're not seeing, and you're seeing where they're not seeing.
Yes.
So, you know, two is better than one.
Absolutely, I'm a firm believer in that. Now, it took me some years, but I'm there now.
Yeah. All right. So one last thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is just kind of a, you know, this interview behind me right here. This is that's Tate right there.
Oh, word.
And I don't think I asked you about when you met Tate. Now I know he pretty much assembled the bands and went kind of hand selected folks. But when did you meet him, and when did you first start obviously playing with him?
Man, this is going to test me. I'm usually Rain Man with numbers, so, and dates. So this was, let me see. I had been gigging. I'd had maybe 2 or 3 gigs under my belt when I met Tate. I didn't start gigging in public until 2003. This was the summer of 2003. It almost happened just on a whim, because I was hanging out with a cat. He introduced me to another cat, and they was like, yo, we got a show tonight. Come on through. Cool. I went and unplugged my keyboard, brought it to this venue. I can't even remember where it was, but it was some spot called Bonsai Bob's. It was like some kind of Mongolian barbecue spot. And, you know, after that, we started gigging there. And but in between that, I had gotten another gig with a couple of artists out of Michigan named Tasha the Energetic and Nick Speed. They did just a collaboration gig. It was at the Blind Pig in Ann Arbor, and was playing keys for them. And there was a cat there out of Kalamazoo who worked with Tate and Gorilla Funk Mob named Mike Michigan. I remember him approaching me after the show, was like, yo, I got to get you together with these cats and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, cool, like whatever. You know, at that point I was like, the more gigs, the better. Like I'm all for it. So he introduced me to Tate. And at the time they were working the Fifth Avenue circuit. So they were playing mainly at Royal Oak, Fifth Avenue. I remember him giving me just a list of songs to learn.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, cool. And this wasn't my first time. I was like, I'll get this thing licked. And so I had my what did I have then? I think I printed out like this Excel spreadsheet joint. Mm-hmm. And I had like 2 keyboards, I had like my Rhodes. And so with each song, I would put in like, the keyboard patch, if I have a Rode, will I be playing on Rhodes? Like I had this whole little thing, like, I'm not big into astrology, but I am a Virgo. And with that, like, I'm very organized. I'm very bad when it comes to, so I had this whole thing organized, and that's pretty much how we met up. I met, got up with Tate, and that's when I met G-Rock and Shaka also on percussion. And, at the time they were playing with cats like Sun out of Ypsilanti. They were playing with Athletic Mike Leake, who I already knew those cats. They was out of Ann Arbor. That's where you get your Mayor Hawthorne and 14 KT Buff One. So this was like the early beginnings of everything. Like I literally cut my teeth on stage with those guys. So much love to Tate and Rock and Mike Mish and all those guys, man, starting out. Those were fun and interesting times.
Yeah, you're not born with experience.
Right.
And so there's going to be a time where you're going to have to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, and embracing those situations and making something out of it. That's how you improve. That's how that's how you get down the road.
Very, very much so. Very much so. Yeah, you can't just pop up on stage and just start performing like Prince. Like that just doesn't happen.
No.
For any of us. We all
that's right.
At one point.
Not at all. All right, man. Well, this has been fun. It's been great catching back up with you. And we're gonna have to collaborate on something soon. I'll figure something out, and I've got a couple things I'm going to be working on, and maybe I'll shoot you something and we can talk about it.
Please do, man. Yeah, that'll be what, 15 years in the making. Oh my goodness. Please do, man. Nah, it was a pleasure, man. I'm glad you hit me up to do this, man. It was fun.
Absolutely. Well, God bless you, man.
Absolutely, bro.
All right, I'll see you.